Welcome to the pod. Welcome to Brian's World, man. I am your host, Brian B. Shynin, where I dive into everything that's Chiefs, Kansas City, and culture. Maybe a sprinkle a little bit of something else too, man. But I thank you for joining me, and make sure that you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button wherever you are. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, whether you're on Spotify, or whether you're on YouTube, man, following my family at FoolishClubMedia. And make sure you hit the subscribe for B Shynin too on YouTube so that you can catch up with everything, with my mixes, with Hustle and Shine in the morning, with Brian's World, with any damn thing that I want to put on my socials at Brian B. Shynin, but specifically on YouTube, subscribe at B Shynin. This week during the pod, y'all know we creeping ever so closer to football season. So with that being said, I will be having more Chiefs material on the pod. And that's exactly what we're going to do this week, as I'm going to talk about the offseason a little bit and give you 5 reasons why you need to be optimistic as a Chiefs fan headed into the 2025 season. The NBA Finals underway. Now, who I picked for the NBA Finals, of course, it did not happen. It was the opposite. I picked the losers of the conference finals, but I got some solid thoughts about what's going on in the NBA Finals and the current NBA as it stands. And then this might develop into a new segment or something, man. I'm calling it Brian's Rant, where I have this rant. And I don't know if all millennials are going to agree with me on the rant that I got today for this one, because I might be out in the cold, if you catch my drift, on this particular story, man. I got that coming up later in the pod as well. As we get closer to going to St. Joe for Chiefs training camp, I'm starting to feel that itch again. And yes, I bathe, and no, there are no insects in the crib, man, but I got a real salty taste in my mouth from last year's Super Bowl. And I know that if I'm feeling this way, first off, I know all the Chiefs Kingdom is feeling this way. But more importantly, the players are feeling this way too. I know they chomping at the bit to get back to it, and I frankly cannot wait to see what this new team looks like on the field, man. We got the young gunners coming up. We got this rebuilt offensive line in the works to protect Patrick Mahomes. And I'm just thinking about last year and what really went wrong a few times. And it was injuries. You think about the injuries, and we'll dive into it in a second as I give you 5 reasons to be optimistic about 2025 and this season coming up. But if you think about the wide receiver core and what it was looking like during the season, it was terrible. And we were expecting Patrick Mahomes to come out and be Superman and do it again with another depleted wide receiver core. And in the end, the Eagles just had a much better team than we had. They had a much better constructed team. And then you look at the offensive line and how injuries or maybe lack of paying attention to did us, with having Tooney at left tackle. And then, I don't even want to go back to it. Just seeing how bad that offensive line played in the Super Bowl. So with that being said, I'm getting the itch for football season. And these guys are in OTAs. I heard they showing they complete ass. Well, some of them, not all of them. Of course, some of your vets ain't participating yet fully, like Travis Kelce or like a Jawan Taylor, who had a off-season procedure, who he may not even be ready for training camp, is what I'm hearing. But as a team comes together now and the off-season starts to wind down just a little bit, you notice that some people are saying some really interesting things in these press conferences. And I'm going to use Matt Nagy as example number 1, because what he had to say was very, very interesting on a number of things. Check it out.
Going back and looking at the tape, what I thought was interesting was there was times where maybe we think that didn't happen, where he wasn't trusting it, but then there's times where he was, and there was a breakthrough. I think it was more the consistency, Adam, of matching the two together. So there's times where there's great there's great time to throw the ball and the route wasn't open, and some of that is because of the scheme that we put in, or vice versa, a guy's open and we miss it. And then we got to try to, put in the right plays and then obviously call it at the right time. But it's a mindset and you got to stick to it. And it's just, it's constantly every single day, not just every week, every single day, and then it just becomes reality. The good part for Pat is he wants that. He came in here after the Super Bowl, the first day we had him, and he was so locked in, and it wasn't this, angry, pissed off at the world, like gotta get back at people, revenge thing. That's not what it was. It's just it's a calm, professional want to get better and use it in the right way, and it's a strong positivity in that room right now. It's been great. I think for us, everyone has numbers and everything of downfield throws and accuracy, inaccuracy. They do it, they don't do it. That's numbers, but the video shows what's going on, and so we spent an inordinate amount of time breaking that down this offseason and watching it together. And, for what it's worth, at the end of the Eagles game, I know the score wasn't what we wanted, but there was a pretty good throw at the end of the year there to Xavier. And I think that we're excited to get back to some of that.
There are a number of things that we could take away from that. I mean, we're talking about the deep passing game. We're talking about the offensive line. I mean, you could tell that the coaches and the team really dug into last year's tape. And I think, quite frankly, some of them might have been embarrassed about some of the performances last year, not only in the Super Bowl, but the games leading up to the Super Bowl. There was no way in hell that the Chiefs were supposed to be that close to losing to the Carolina Panthers. The Chiefs went into overtime against the Panthers. So there was so many things continuity-wise about this team that was completely jacked up that, well, I know that I ignored. Definitely. I didn't pay a blind eye to it, but it was something that I just thought that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs could overcome, just with the star power and the experience of this team. And they've been there and they've done that. But it ended up being the detriment to the team. But with that being said, here we go. 5 reasons to be excited, to be optimistic about these Kansas City Chiefs heading into the 2025 season. The return of the deep ball. Oh, baby, you heard Matt Nagy talking about it. And if you take a look at that Super Bowl performance and what Xavier Worthy was trying to do or what the Chiefs were trying to do, they just said to hell with it. Let it rip. We had nothing to lose at that point. The game was over. And maybe the Chiefs actually discovered plutonium by accident. Maybe the Chiefs actually found, hey, maybe we need to do this more often, because I haven't seen Patrick Mahomes rip it like that in a very long time. Maybe since 2019, 2018, maybe not even 19, 2018, because remember in 19 he was hurt a couple of games, and I thought that they wanted to ease it in and take it slow a little bit, to ease it in and take it slow a little bit, to ease it in and take it slow a little bit.
That was crazy.
When he got back in. But 2018, it was just fireworks. And it worked that year. Now, I'm not saying that type of offense is going to work every single year, because obviously it did not work against the Bengals in 2021 in that AFC Championship game. And I thought that was kind of the end of that era of Chiefs football. And then you moved on into the previous little era that we had. But with Worthy's Super Bowl performance, and plus, Taub mentioned that he's one of the best returners secretly in the game right now that nobody is talking about. The 2024 Chiefs were next to last in completions that traveled down the field at least 20 yards. They only had 12. They only had 12 of them last year, man. And if that includes the playoffs, like 2 or 3 of them happened in the Super Bowl alone. So that's terrible. 47 attempts, that is the 4th lowest total in the league, and 42 pass plays of 20 yards or more is the 6th lowest in the NFL last year. The Chiefs were not throwing the ball deep, and there's several reasons behind that. You got to look at the addition by injury list when it comes to these Chiefs next year, and how everything just got screwed up. Play number 1 in the preseason. When Hollywood Brown, when he got hurt in the first offensive play, I had no, or was it the offensive play? It might have been the third or fourth offensive play. I know damn well it was the first offensive drive in the preseason against the Jaguars when he got hurt. And from there on, you know, Rashee Rice gets hurt week 4 against the Chargers, and 2 of your top receivers, 2 of your, and maybe it's a shame on me for not thinking ahead and not seeing this, but the more I think about it, the more stupid I feel. Because if you go into a season and your top 2 receivers get hurt, and everything that you had in game planning, everything that you had during the season was tailored towards those 2, not Travis Kelce, not Pacheco, but Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown had significant portions of this offense, and now you're asking new receivers to come up and fill those roles. After a whole offseason of practicing with those 2 guys, now you're asking 2 other receivers to learn what they learned in those months to try and get the camaraderie with Patrick Mahomes and try and get the timing right. It was too much to ask. And so when you get these players back, you know, you can look at them as like kind of like free agents a little bit. Because for the season, they did not play. Hollywood Brown came He came back week 17 or something like that, week 16, real late in the season, not enough to really make a big impact during the season. So just getting those 2 back in the full offseason, but of course we still had this Rashee Rice legality situation hanging over the Chiefs like a dark cloud, which I'm thinking he gets at least 4 games. I've heard of, 6 to 8 or something like that. Who knows at this point? Because nothing has been said about Rashee Rice and maybe his supposed suspension. Try saying that 2 or 3 times in a row. And I think the last thing that you love about the return of the deep passing game is you're getting a re-energized Travis Kelce. I don't think he liked his performance at all last year for the whole season. And this already talks to him already being in better shape. Word is he dropped 20 to 25 pounds. You notice that he didn't do Kelce Jam. There are several things that I'm pretty sure he could have been involved in that he wasn't involved in this offseason. Taylor Swift last offseason, she was on tour all over the world. And, I don't think that he went to every single stop, but he was on a couple. But it seems like Travis Kelce has toned that type of lifestyle down in order to have a successful season, possibly for his last season. And I think us as Chiefs fans, this is something that we've been clamoring for, that we wanted for a long time. Because that season in 2018, it was mighty exciting. That was exciting seeing Patrick Mahomes throw the ball all over the field, throw for over 5,000 yards, over 50 touchdowns. And my dumb ass, I thought he was going to do that every single year. I thought there was no way any defense could combat what Patrick was doing. But, of course, we saw what happened. But the return of the deep ball should be glorious in 2025. Another reason, and this is probably my favorite reason for being optimistic about this year's Chiefs, is that an improvement on the offensive line. And they, look, some of you think they overdid it, which after watching last year's Super Bowl game, I don't understand how in the hell you could come to that conclusion. Because I would rather overpay for a swing tackle who people are referring to Jalen Moore as this person who we severely overpaid. And maybe we did. Who gives a damn? Did you see what we had crawling out last year at left tackle? Yeah, DJ Humphries, coming off the couch. No disrespect intended, because I would be on the couch chilling too. But clearly he wasn't in football shape at all, as he got hurt the first game he played in. And then you got Wanye Morris, who couldn't get it done, and Kingsley Su'Mataia, who is not a left tackle in the league right now, for now. I'm not saying that can't be his future, but for now, yeah, left guard, my dog. And that's another reason why I'm excited about this O-line is watching the development of Kingsley Su'Mataia. You listen to the Chiefs coaching staff, and the word is they love what he did at left guard when they started him there against the Broncos in Week 18 last year. And some of you talking about, well, it's Week 18 against the Broncos. Blah, blah, blah. Well, hold on. Broncos were trying to win. They were in the playoffs. They got into the playoffs. So, and let's not act like that Broncos defense is not ferocious, because it is. And he had a pretty decent game. And by the way, Kingsley, I would rather have him at left guard than Caliendo.
This man was a bona fide scrub.
That performance he had in the Super Bowl was worthless. Anybody but him. But we haven't seen Patrick Mahomes comfortable since 2022. We haven't. And in 22, he had a MVP season. He was marvelous that year. That was Orlando Brown Jr. left tackle year, huh? Yeah, that was his last year in Kansas City. But even in 2023, during that Super Bowl win run, you know, the Chiefs were having trouble on that offensive line even that season. And of course, the wide receiver room was depleted as well. But still, we haven't seen Patrick Mahomes be comfortable and trust his left tackle and trust his left side in a very, very long time. It's been way too long for him to sit up here and have to improvise and make magic on every single play. On every play, he has to scramble. On every play, he has to get up out of dodge and get up out of the pocket and break the pocket because the left side can't hold their own. I'm sick of this. Okay, it's almost like as if some of his prime years have been, I don't want to say wasted because of the amount of success that Mahomes has had. But it's priority number one to keep that man healthy and keep him up and make sure that he has confidence. And yes, you go out and you pay Jalen Moore whatever you need to pay him to get his ass in here and make sure Wanya Morris is not starting at left tackle. That's what you do. Will we might have the most expensive swing tackle in the league? Yes. Do I mind it? Hell no. Some of you are saying, well, we could have spent that money somewhere else. Where? What, for a third down edge rusher? For a slot cornerback? For extra safety? What? I'd rather build that offensive line up so that we have options, so that we have a plethora of good players and not just fill-ins or guys that we calling up off the couch. We called Donovan Smith up the year before in 2023. So I think to overcompensate at left tackle was something that was needed. Veach saw that Super Bowl, and I'm sure he was pissed at what was going on. We had Joe Thuney at left tackle.
Lord have mercy.
You rather stick with Joe Thuney, you rather stick with Wanya Morris than the overpay and overdraft for a left tackle. And by the way, speaking of our left tackle, which probably is the most exciting thing, is that Josh Simmons is participating in team activities and OTAs, which is a damn good sign. All right. And Andy Reid is happy with his progress. And people seem to think he's ahead of progress of where he's supposed to be. So you mess around and you get Josh Simmons starting at left tackle, and you got Jawan Taylor at right tackle. You got Trey Smith at right guard, Creed Humphrey at center, and Kingsley Su'Mataia, who like I just said, they really like him at left guard. And so do I, because I think it's more of a position in the NFL that will suit him. I think he's nimble with his feet. Though he was just getting overpowered by those edge rushers. I will never forget Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals, just absolutely doing whatever the hell he wanted to do on our left tackle. So I think Kingsley moving him to left guard is a superior move. Is a move that will save his NFL career probably. And he comes from a football family, so I know that they roasted his ass this offseason for that performance that he had. It's only going to make us better, man. So, one thing that I just noticed, this offensive line, it's almost an all-black offensive line. Look at that.
I beg your pardon?
Creed, you on your own, dog.
Damn.
Nah, but another thing to add on to that is that the running game will be way more dynamic. With continuity on the offensive line, it's just with any other position group. Wide receivers need to know where they're going. You need to know where each other is going. You need to know when you need to maybe have your guys back a little bit more than another play where you need to have your guys back. Or, it's just so many intricacies and so many details that go into each play that The more times that you start with the same offensive line group, the better off your offense is. And that running game is going to be the one to benefit off this, which is my number 3 reason why you should be optimistic about this Kansas City Chiefs team headed into 2025, because this run game is going to be mean this year. Pacheco, I'm hearing that he done put a little bit of weight on.
Pause.
Of course, good weight, of course, being in shape. But the offensive line improvements should really, really help Isaiah Pacheco on the run game. And offensive line coach Andy Heck, he saw the tape last year and what happened with this offensive line and why it needs to improve.
With how the final game ended for you guys last year, in terms of what you can control, what did you learn from that Eagles attack that can help you adjust accordingly?
Well, there's certainly something to take away from every game, win or lose. And, in that game, obviously, as an offensive line, we got whipped. And so I wouldn't say we use that as motivation. But anytime we step on the field, we want to be the ones that are controlling the line of scrimmage.
I like to think as the O-line as being really kind of the heart and soul of the team, because I just noticed that no team that's ever won a Super Bowl or that had a lot of success, all of them had good offensive lines, good to great offensive lines. Not saying that you have to invest every single penny, on the books into the O-line, but it's something that has to be addressed and something that cannot be ignored. Like, I feel like your slot receiver or your third receiver or your third cornerback, you could kind of ignore those guys. But those 5 linemen, especially now in today's NFL, you have to pay attention and have to have a good starter at each one of those positions, because one bad link on that offensive line could lead to a very bad leak for the rest of your team. The Chiefs ranked 22nd in rushing last year. That's terrible. Terrible. And a lot of that had to do, of course, with the offensive line problems, but Pacheco was hurt. You giving Pacheco a full offseason to come back. And he came back towards the end of last season, but clearly was not the best player. And this is a contract year for Pacheco, I believe. But I love this Chiefs running back room. Compared to last year, love it. With the addition of Elijah Mitchell and, of course, SMU running back Bashar Smith, who I'm really excited about, who the Chiefs drafted in the 7th round. All of those guys, you don't have a Samaje Perine in here slowing up the running back room. Of course, you still have Kareem Hunt on the team, but I think he's a prime candidate to not be on here, to not be on this team this year. Just based on the amount of tread on the tires, just based on Chiefs' needs with this team, I personally would rather have Elijah Mitchell than a Kareem Hunt. So it's only so many running backs you could keep. But another thing about this running game, and that the Chiefs have been missing, I think this could be the biggest indicator into how this offense has changed itself from a few years ago, is that the Chiefs only have 413 receiving yards from their running backs. In the Andy Reid offense, I think Jamal Charles had half of that in one game against the Raiders in 2013. But that's compared to 657 yards in 2023. And even it dwindled from then, because Jerick McKinnon had 512 receiving yards by himself in 2022 and 826 total receiving yards for running backs total in 2022. So those numbers have dropped off tremendously. You're talking about having 413 receiving yards from your running backs last year compared to only 2 years ago when you had 826. That's half. You cut your receiving yards in half from your running backs. Something is seriously wrong. Of course, you couldn't have Kareem Hunt, helping your short passing game last year. That's not his game. His game is in between the tackles, getting your first downs, sniffing out those hard-earned yards. That's where Kareem Hunt, that's where his specialty is. And he was the Chiefs' leading back last year for all intents and purposes. So that, I think the return of the screen game, the short passing game with your running backs, like, those injuries were so devastating. Not only to the wide receivers who I talked about earlier, not only to the offensive line, but to the running back room, man. no screen game and having a limited short passing game, which can combat zone defenses, which you already know these teams are playing, which affects the deep ball. Because if they're playing cover 4, cover 2, cover 3, cover, and you only rushing 8 or you only rushing 3 or 4 at a time, and you still can't run the damn ball, it affects everything. But having a healthy Isaiah Pacheco and a better offensive line definitely is going to help that running game in 2025. Reason number 4 why you should be excited about this 2025 Chiefs team: the young Thundercats on defense. I'm super excited about Jaden Hicks. He's going to be one of the players who I'm going to be looking at in training camp to see, what type of leadership role he's going to be taking. To see where Spags is going to be putting him on the field. And then you got the young draft picks, Omar Norman Lott, Noah Williams, that corner, and then Ashton Gelate. I don't know if I said his name right. I don't know if it's Galat or Galate. Maybe I'm saying all of them wrong. I don't know. But the DN that the Chiefs drafted, I'm excited about all those defensive players. And then seeing Karlaftis, Bolton, and McDuffie really becoming more established leaders on this team. It's a really, really young nucleus over there on the defensive side of the ball. Chris Jones is the old, wily vet. What's his year 10 for Chris Jones? Yeah, he drafted in 16. Yep, this is year 10. Year 10 for Chris Jones coming up this season. So, just seeing just a change of the guard, more young guys stepping up to be leaders on this defense. Maybe you see, because Justin Reed gone, he became a leader on the D, but he's gone, so you need guys to come and replace those guys. Treshaun Wharton, who I'm still hurt about losing Treshaun Wharton to the Carolina Panthers. But it is what it is. You lose good players, you just got to replace them, and that's why I'm excited about Omar Norman Lott, because he's an exact replica of Treshaun Wharton and what he brings to the table. But seeing McDuffie step up a little bit more, seeing him become more of a vocal leader on his team, and especially in the defensive backfield, which I think is one of the strengths on his Chiefs team for sure. But one thing about McDuffie that I found out recently is that the Chiefs were scared that he was going to be a Patriot.
So for the 3 or 4 weeks leading up to the draft, everybody said to me, I would put money on Trent McDuffie being their pick, right? Trent McDuffie is from a football makeup standpoint, he's Devin McCourty, and right. He's as safe as it gets. This pick has Belichick written all over it, and the Patriots were sitting there at 21 that year, and the Chiefs had been trying to trade up for McDuffie, and they had the Patriots circled as that. If McDuffie gets there, it's over for us, right? Right. I'm there's no way they're going to trade to us if McDuffie's there. So the Chiefs were legitimately shocked when they found a receptive audience and wait a minute, the Patriots want to trade to us and McDuffie's on the board, and sure enough, the Patriots trade the pick. The Chiefs get McDuffie. The Patriots wind up with Cole Strange. And that was coming off of actually coming off of a positive year for them too. You know right. what I mean? They had won 10 games the year before. And I think when we look at it, that's sort of indicative of the Belichick era really starting to circle the drain. And I think they got cute with the McDuffie thing. I heard somebody in the building told me Bill said something along the lines of who has McDuffie covered in the Pac-12? Well, Bill, who has Cole Strange blocked at UT Chattanooga? You know what I mean?
I'm looking for this defense to be ferocious. I'm looking for this defense to be fast. Spaz got these young dogs cooking. He got these young dogs waiting, and I think this defense is going to be fast. It's going to be ferocious. It's going to be tenacious. And with McDuffie, Karlaftis, and Bolton, they are now veterans and taking on the leadership role of this defense. And if last season was the preview, this year could be dominant for this Chiefs defense, man. And with Chris Jones now just playing for Canton, Ohio, man, that front line it's about to be a problem. And then my last reason to be optimistic about this Chiefs team is that you're getting the laser-focused Patrick Mahomes. And it's probably the biggest reason to be hyped for this team because Patrick LaVon Mahomes II. Yeah, I am saying his government name. Last season he ended, on a tough note, having another bad Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes hasn't had a good entire Super Bowl. That's one stain on his record right now that I'm sure that he's going to erase at one point. But it wasn't no late game magic. It wasn't no crazy sidearm action. It wasn't a miraculous comeback from 10 points down in the Super Bowl. For once, the moment just slipped away from Mahomes and the Chiefs. And that's why this offseason has been different. You ever seen Mahomes after a loss? Let's go back in the time machine real quick. The 2018 AFC Championship versus Tom Brady, when he walked the dog down in overtime and went to the Super Bowl. How did Mahomes bounce back? MVP season and his first Super Bowl win. Let's talk about the 2021 season after the devastating loss to the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC Championship game when the Chiefs was up 21-3. What did Mahomes respond to that? How did he respond to that? Came back next year with another MVP season and another Super Bowl title. So every time that Patrick Mahomes has been counted out, every time he has been doubted or even slightly questioned in his Michael Jordan era, he's taking these things personally. He responds like a damn superhero. But this time he had an entire offseason to sit with that loss, to go over every missed throw, to go over every missed opportunity, to go every turnover that happened. You know that he's out there getting it in with Rashee Rice and them in Texas. You know that he's sharpening up with Bobby Stroke. He's doing them old weird exercises where he's got his leg on one side and he got his arm on the other. And he's going through all of that right now. He's got that laser look again. And now he got a fresh haircut to match with it, baby. And his goatee done connected. Y'all in trouble. You saw it in the OTAs, man. Eyes locked in. Goatee locked in. He ain't playing with nobody this year because Patrick Mahomes actually has something to prove. I think last year, of course, a three-peat, but what exactly did Patrick Mahomes have to prove? What was the chip on his shoulder last year? I think it's a boulder on his shoulder this year. But this just ain't Mahomes looking for another ring or another MVP. This is Mahomes on a revenge tour. You add in a healthy O-line. You add in new weapons with some speed. It's a dangerous combination for this league. And when Mahomes has something to prove, damn it, he goes out there and prove it every single time. I'm just saying, man, this is the go get your get back season. This season we're about to see a more smarter, a more evolved version of 15. Less freelancing, more discipline. But still with the arm angles, the magic, the deep ball swag, that's coming back. Mark my words. Mark it. This will be Mahomes' best season since 2018. And that should scare everybody in the league. Another factor for Mahomes being refocused is Andy Reid. He ain't done yet. He's refocused too. He's embarrassed too. His playbook is thicker than the Kansas City barbecue menu, baby. And every year he's adding on new wrinkles. And the wrinkles that were not shown last year, which I talked about earlier with Rashee Rice being hurt, with Hollywood Brown being hurt, you're going to see the wrinkles this year. We're going to be able to put all of that on display. And as the league adjusts, Andy Reid adjusts. There's nobody better. With a chip from last year, he and Mahomes, they're going to be into full mad scientist mode this year. And that's bad news for every single defense in the National Football League.
Shut up, Brian.